Good morning, everybody. So we just finished the Gemara, the Mishnah on Yud Aleph and Beis. Today's Daf Yud Beis. So the Mishnah says we were discussing the need for in terms of a lechi or koras. Just a little distracted by this driver here. Sorry about that. All right. So we got to the Mishnah. Did we start the Gemara yet or no? I don't think we did. So we said, come on. So the Mishnah said over there that a kasher mavui, whether you need a lechi and a korah or two lechis. So we're thinking that the Mishnah never described what type of mavui. So there's two types of mavuis we discussed. There's a mavui mafulish. There's one which is open, and there's one which is sasum, which is closed. Right? Closed means that it's three-sided and there's only one open end. And mafulish is something which is open. Basically, there's it goes right through. And that which we discussed goes right through. And one end you need it starts a Pesach, and that was what we had earlier. So we said, come on, it's not like Chanan or the Tanakama, because both of them hold that whether you need it starts a Pesach one end, but none of them hold either a lechi or korah or just those without any other additional structures. So in Amar Rav Yehuda, Hachi Kamar, this means to say, Hechsher Mavui Sasum Ketzah. We're talking about Mavui Sasum. We're talking about one which is Sasum and not one which is open. So Beis Shammai Oimrim Lechi the Korah. Beis Shammai says you need a Lechi the Korah. Beis Hillel Oimrim Oy Lechi Oy Korah. And Beis Hillel says either a Lechi or a Korah. Beis Shammai Oimrim and Beis Shammai says, right? So Beis Shammai Oimrim Lechi the Korah. In other words, when he says Lechi Korah, Lemeimer the Kosavri Beis Shammai. So now the Gemara is asking. So that which he requires, Beis Shammai's opinion holds that lechi and korah is required. So the to go savi Beis Shammai arba mechitzos deoraisa, right? So he says that according to him, in other words, if you hold that you now require both a lechi and a korah, right? So if that's the case, so that which it says you need four sides is deraisa. So if, in other words, basically you have the three ends, and this is now going to be a fourth side. If that's the case, that's the reason. So Beis Shammai must hold that you need four in order to be able to say that it's usher now to go ahead and carry from the Rishus Harabim into here, and that's why you need both in order to go ahead and make one chayiv. So the Gemara asks low, Lizrok, when it comes to throwing the shalosh mechayiv, really, even if you don't go ahead and you don't put up a lechi and a korah according to Beis Shammai, and you go ahead and you throw from the Rishus Harabim into this mavui, you be chayiv. However, the talta, but to go over here to permit carrying, right? Then adi kabra. That there's two levels here, right? There's the deraisa level of forbidding being able to carry from the Rishus Harabim into this mavui, right? That's the deraisa level. So that we say that is you need to have. You don't even need those walls. That it's already usher. That which we require you to go have, and which in our mission is discussing, to go ahead and put a lechi and a korah in, is to permit carrying, and that you need the four sides of the lechi and the korah. And Beis Hillel Oimrim o lechi o korah. Beis Hillel says either a lechi or a korah. So now the Gemara asks the same question about him. L'meimer kosavi Beis Hillel shlosh mechitzos deraisa. According to Beis Hillel, 3 mechitzos deraisa, and that's why you don't need the third wall. In other words, you don't need a whole side to have a lechi and a korah, rather just one or the other. So he says, low. So he says, no, Lizrog, no, when it comes to going to be chayiv to throw two, then l'shtaim, right? You don't even need anything else. You just need two. So the talta, but to permit to carry, that's what we need, adi kashalosh, that's what we need the third wall in order to make the, to have the adjustment. Fine. Now, so we say, Rabbi Eliezer, and that which Rabbi Eliezer says, and l'chayim, so we said in the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer says you need two lechis, one on each side. So the Gemara asks, Rabbi Eliezer l'chayim l'korah kamar, dema lechin v'lo korah kamar, right? Is Rabbi Eliezer saying that you need a lechi, two lechis and a korah, or just two lechis without a korah? So Tashma, come and listen. Ma'aseh Rabbi Eliezer shalach eitzel Rabbi Yosi ben Preda Tamido. So one time Rabbi Yosi ben Preda went to his Talmud, right? And who was in Ovalin? Who was in a place called Ovalin? When he saw that he was sitting in a mavi, he saw he was sitting in a mavi that only had a lechi. So what did he say to him? So he says, make another lechi. Right, that's all he says. So make another lechi. What, do I need to be in a completely enclosed area? So we'll have to understand what that means. Some are low. You stay go ahead and close it up, and what's the big deal? And then it says, so we're going to get back to the point, to the proof. If we're talking about a mavui, right, that is less than arba amos, it's not that wide, then nobody agrees. You don't need anything, right? So when do they need something? From 4 to 10 amos. That's the machlokes between when Beis Shammai says you need a lechi and a korah. Now, first of all, it says so now our question was, did he require 2 lechis and that's it, or 2 lechis and a korah? So right, does so when he said, do I need to be basically sealed in? So if you say, I understand that we're talking about that you need a lechi, 2 lechis, and a korah, so then it makes sense. That's why he says, I'm sealed in, because like a seal is completely sealed. But rather, if he says a lechi without a korah, right? What does the lashon mean to enclose him, right? It's mashma when he says, that my enclosed. It sounds like it's talking about a case of 2 lechis and a beam. So he says, no, maybe not. Maybe just saying, do I need to be sealed in lechis? In other words, 1 lechi on each side, but there is it's not necessary to have a korah on top. And right? There's no machlokes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. That when it comes to something in a mavui less than 4 amos, that you don't need anything. Our Mishnah says, "Mishum Rabbi Yishmael Amar Tamid Echel Lifnei Rabbi Akiva." They said before Rabbi Akiva, "Nechlu Beis Shammai Beis Hillel Mavui Shu Parchos Me'ar Amos Shu Niter O Belechi O B'Korah." Didn't our Mishnah say that something which is less than Daled Amos? Our Mishnah did say they agreed, but said they both agree you only need a lechi or a korah, right? That you just Beis Shammai wouldn't say you need both, right? So that was what the agreement, not the agreement that you don't need anything. Some Rav Ashi means to say rather you don't need both. Beis Shammai, and Rabbi Eliezer would not say you need 2 lechis. Ella oy lechi oy korah kebeis Hillel. Rather, everyone hold like Beis Hillel in this case, o lechi o korah. And therefore, there would not be a machlokes in that case. But it doesn't mean that you don't need anything. It just means you don't need the extra double lechi, according to Rabbi Eliezer, or the korah and the korah and the lechi, according to Beis Shammai. The kama. Now, how? So we said if it's less than you don't need anything. Up to how? So up to how small can it be? So Amar Rav Achli v'Timar Rav Yechiel ad arba'ah, up until 4. In other words, you need one thing up until 4 arba'ah. Remember, arba'ah is 4 tefachim, up until 4 tefachim. And Amar Rav Sheshes, Amar Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar Rav. Maidim chacham Rav Eliezer bepasi chatzer. Now, when it comes to a chatzer, now there's 2 things. We've been discussing a mavui. So now we're going to compare or contrast that with a chatzer. Now, a chatzer is typically owned by a single individual, or it's a chatzer that perhaps 2 houses could have an eruv inside and share the chutzner, but it's not something which is open. It's not an alley. It's more of a a private domain. So Maidim Chachamim Rabbi Eliezer Pasi Chutzner. It says over here the Chachamim agree with Rabbi Eliezer that when it comes to a chutzner, you need pasi, right? Pasi is plural for boards, right? You need basically 2 boards. And Rav Nachman Amar Halach Rabbi Eliezer Pasi Chatzir. Rav Nachman says halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer that you need 2 boards when it comes to a chatzir. Now Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Man Maidim. So the first statement was that the Chachamim agree when it comes to a chatzir. All right. So and who's the one who agrees? So that would be Rebbe, who normally holds. Right, in other words, they would agree to Rebbe. And halacha mechal depli. According to the second one, when Rav Nachman says that halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer when it comes to a chatzir, so who is the arguing? Man palagalel. So who's arguing with him? The Rabbanan, right? The Rabbanan who argue and who argue with one, they say you only need one, and then the other opinion hold that Rabbi Eliezer says you need 2 boards, and the halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer you need 2 boards. The time in the brayso chatzir niteres pasachad, and Rabbi Yomir b'shnei pasim. The Rabbanan hold that a chatzir is matir with 1 board, and Rabbi says with 2 boards. Fine. Omar Rav Asi, Omar Rav Yechanan, chatzir tzrichin shnei pasim. We just said a chatzir requires 2 boards, and if there's an open end, 1 on each side of the entrance. Now, or each side of the opening. And Omar le Reb Zera le Reb Asi. So me Omar Reb Yechon Hachi the Reb Yechon say you require 2 boards, one on each end. He said in the name of Reb Yechon, Pasi Chatzir right? The boards of a chatzir need to be arba, need to be 4 tefachim. So now we said you need 2 boards, and boards have to be 4 tefachim. So it sounds like each one is 4 boards, right? Each side has to be 4. So v'chitei arba mikan v'arba mikan. V'tani we learned in a brayso. So we saw the case earlier. Ravime kamed Rabbi Chanina. Some say kamed Rabbi Chanina bar Papi. Katana b'yaser gedola b'achaz ugedola b'achazesrei. So we talked about the case earlier, where we had a chutzir backed up to another chutzir, and there was a breach in the fence between them, and we were trying to decide how large. And so we explained the case over there with the small chutzir and the large chutzir. The small chutzir was 10 amos, and the larger chutzir was 11 amos. And over there, the Mishnah says later on, I think in Kuf Beis, that the larger one you're allowed to carry, and the small one you can't carry in. And we were talking about basically where the small, right, the large one was 11. So if the large one was 11, the small one 10, that means there's only 6 tefachim which are extra, right? There's 6 tefachim and basically 3 on each side. So if those are the walls, those to the 4th side of the chatzir katana, right? So if the chatzir katana has, or that part to the chatzir katana, which is basically the walls for the chatzir gedola. So each of those on each side, if it's, remember that the wider one, the larger one is 11, smaller one's 10. Therefore, there's only extra 3 tefachim on each side. If it's extra 3 tefachim on each side, how does that qualify as boards? I thought we just said that the boards have to go ahead and be 4 tefachim. So Kisalak Reb Zera Miyami. So Reb Zera, when he came back from overseas, so he said, Baruch Achas Barba, if we're talking about, when you only require 1 board, such as in a case of a mavui, so then such a case when you have 1 board, or it's a small enough entrance, they can use 1 board, then it's 4 tefachim. However, mishtei ruchos, if you're talking about boards on each side, then if it's 1, then you need 4 tefachim. However, mishtei ruchos, mashu l'kan mashu. But if we're talking about the boards on each side, then you don't have the requirement of 4. So in other words, it's 2 different halachas. If there's a requirement of 1 board, then it has to be 4 tefachim. But there's a requirement of 2 boards, then both of them do not have to be 4 tefachim. Well, the Tani, and that which Adabar Avimi says, the Rebbe, it's something like Rabbi Yossi. In other words, Rabbi who holds that's 2 boards. However, Rabbi also holds that it doesn't have to be 4 tefachim on each side. It can be even a minimum of 3 tefachim on each side, which would be good with the case of when we had 11 on one side and 10 on the other. And Omar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yudah, Amar Shmuel, Chatzer niteres v'pasachat. He says no, a Chatzer is matir even with 1 board. Samarle Abayla Rav Yosef, mi Amar Rav Shmuel, Hachid Shmuel says, Amar Rav Shmuel, Rav Chanina bar Shila, At lo tavid uvda ella oiberov dofen, obeshtei pasin. So he said, no, you shouldn't go ahead and rule only in the case of either you have its majority, it covers the majority of the wall. In other words, we'll soon see how large the wall is, the majority of the wall, or we're talking about a case of where, or you have 2 boards. So how could, and this is Shmuel. So Shmuel seems to say that you don't need, right? He said you need 2 boards, not just 1. So Amar Leiv, Ana lo yadina de uvda de havi bedura b'ravasa. What about the mice that happened in Dura b'ravasa? What happened over there? So Lashon Yama Nichnas Lachatzer Havi, right? There was a case where the part of the sea went into one of the walls, right, of a Chatzer. And what do they say there? The also the comment of Rabbi Yehuda asked Rabbi Yehuda, what should we do? And he said, all you need to go ahead and put up 1 board on that side. So he put up 1 board. So you see, 1 board is good, so Shmuel is good. So you're talking about a case of the sea. Right? When it comes to water, drawing water, the chamim are extra mekel when it comes to drawing water in order to permit it. And Kidaboy Rabbi Tavla Mirav, like that which was asked from Rabbi Tavla from Rav, Mechitza, Teluya, Ma'u, Shetatia, Bechurva. Let's say you have a hanging wall which is hanging over. In other words, the wall did not come directly in contact with the ground underneath it. What is the halacha there for in a churva? The only time we ever permit a wall which doesn't come in, which is not based off the ground and goes up, is only when it comes to water. Why? Because the chamim are extra makel when it comes to drawing water on Shabbos. At the Rabbanan, they'll allow you use the most makel shitas, even though which is hanging wall. So nevertheless, we call makom kasha. Nevertheless, we have a kasha. We said earlier we're talking about Shmuel, right? So the Shmuel require one wall or two wall, right? We brought the halacha that said Shmuel says you only need is one board, and then it seemed to say when he said either he has the majority of the wall or need two boards. So Kiyasa, Rav Papa, Rav Huna, Bereit, Rav Yeshua, Mibe Rabba, they came from Rav Yeshua. They explained Meiruach Achaz Be'arba. When it comes, if it's one side, then you need four tfachim. However, mishnei ruchos. However, if it's on both sides, mashu l'kan, then you don't need. Then you need only each side. So that which we say, when he said that you need one, that was referring to a case of when it was of four tefachim. If the board is not four tefachim, then you can stand up. Then you need to have at least on each side. And Amar al Papa ikashli hakashli. So Papa says, however, if you want a stira, this is a stira. Damer le Shmuel Rav China bar Shila atla tavu uvda ella oberav doifen obeshnei pasim. Right? That what she said right over there. Okay, you want to go ahead and cover up that side which is open. So either it has to be a majority of the wall, or it has to be with two boards. So Lamali Rav Dofen. First of all, why do you need a majority of the wall? Right? So pas arba sagi, right? All you should require is a board of four tefachim, or have a board of four tefachim, and that would be basically that would block up a majority of those. So my rov dofen. If we say, hey, what does rov dofen mean? It means the dofen shiva. Maybe you're talking about a wall of seven, and therefore, remember, we said the only time you need to cover up a space is if there's at least four tefachim open. So if you have a space of 7 tefachim, and then you have a board which is, let's say, 3 and change, or 3.1. So then the open space is only 3.9. Then you shouldn't need anything else. You shouldn't need two boards, right? So why? It should be less than that. Only up until 4 tefachim. So then, why did he say that you have to have most of the board, right? Most of if you're talking about a wall of 7. Then why should he require to have a board of at least 3.5? He shouldn't require 3.5. It should be at 3.1. So maybe it's like this. When it comes to a chatzer, then that's the case where he's the rove. But in the case of the other one, the case where he doesn't need the rove, maybe that was referring to a mavui. Maybe the Rav can argue, right? It's a machlokes tanaim. And a case of machlokes tanaim, so therefore we could say that one holds you need actually a rov dofen, the other one holds that you only need a pas of arba. And Tanur Rabbanan Lashon Yam Anichnas LaChatzer, speaking of water that enters into a chatzer, Ein Mimalen Hemene b'Shabbos. You can't go ahead and fill it on Shabbos. Unless you have a mechitza of 10 tefachim, in order by the in terms of the case of the water, you need a wall over there by the you need a wall by the water of 10 tefachim. This is only when it's broken up of more than 10 tefachim. In other words, a wider space than 10 tefachim, then you need something. But if the breach with the water is less than 10 amos, right? Less than 10 amos, then abal asara ain't tzarich klum. But if it's less than 10 amos, then you wouldn't need anything to go ahead and fill the case of the water, because you would be able to take care of it. So the Gemara says, "Mimalahu delay melinan, ha tatulim metatlinan." So it says, "Well, you can't draw the water, but you can carry." So ha nifratza chatzer b'mlo l'makom asur la. But understand, we talked about anything that has a broken area, an open area, into a place that you can't carry. And that forbids carrying within that space. So if it's open into the sea, right, which you can't carry, so why is he? You said you can't draw, but it sounds like you're allowed to carry around. So why would you allow it to carry around? So he says now over there, hacha b'mayaskinan d'isle gedude. Over here, we're talking about that in the water there's gedude, right? There's actually sort of underneath the water. There's there's sort of some old walls there down at the bottom, and therefore they have gedude. And those actually are underneath the water are considered to be enough to be 10 tefachim, and therefore that would constitute a wall that ends. So therefore, the reason why you can't draw the water, but you can carry, is because we say that there really is a wall in the water. And Amar Rav Yehuda Mavui Shalom Nishtatfu Bo. We have a mavui. That remember, a mavui is an area that was shared by multiple people. The chatzeros, who in the chatzeros are shared by people. Those open up to a mavui, and the mavui they have. There was no shituf done. There was no combination which joined. They give usually it's like a bread to make some sort of shituf, and it carries in one of the domains. So everyone is basically a partner in this mavui. So Rav Yehuda says a mavui shalom nishat bo hechshiru belechi. If there is a lechi, then it is okay. And if there was a lechi put up and there was no shituf, hazarik l'seichel chayiv. One who throws in there is chayiv. In other words, the lechi is now enough to, even though there's no shituf, right? There's no permissibility to go ahead and carry. But if someone would go ahead and throw from the Rishus Rabbim into this mavui, you'd be chayiv. However, if there was a beam there, hazarik l'seichel patra. Then you throw in there, you would be patra, because we say that the Korah did not do anything, as Asun points out. So there's a difference between a lechi and a Korah, right? So it could be that a lechi, as we'll point out later on, that lechi is actually basically when you put a lechi up, a vertical board up, that is a wall. But when you put a beam across, that's not acting as a wall, that's acting as a hecker, right? A way for people to recognize the difference. So therefore, if there's a wall, like through a lechi, then one would be chayiv. So sounds okay. So if there wasn't a shituf, then han nishatubo afilu achshir bakar namin chayiv. But if there was a shituf, even it was machshir with a korah, you should also be chayiv. So understand. So just by the fact that they give bread, right, that makes it a rishus rabbim or not. In other words, why should the fact that they didn't give bread? Now, take a case of when a beam is there, it's no longer a rishus hayachid that won't be chayiv for. It doesn't make any sense. But Tanya chatzer shel rabbim then we learn that the chatzer of the rabbim and a mavoi that's not mafulish, in other words, a mavoi that is basically closed off the end, bein eruva, bein beiluva, whether there is an eruv there or there's no eruv, whether they join with bread or not, hazarek l'seichan chayiv. One who throws in there is chayiv. So we see, if you put a korah up, right, and just because they didn't do a shituf, right, so then you should still be, in such a case, you should still be chayiv. So it doesn't make any sense. So Eli Itamar Achitamar, rather you say like this: Amar Rav Yehuda mavui she'eino roy l'shituf. A mavui doesn't mean that there wasn't a shituf. It means a mavui that wasn't fit for a shituf. We'll soon explain what that's referring to. Hichshiru belechi, if they use a chayiv. If they use a lechi, then one throws in there, one is chayiv. And if they only use the beam, then hazar l'seichel pater. Then he throws. Then if one throws in there, then it would be pater, because a korah is not a fourth wall to make it a rishus yachid. That one would be chayiv v'chatas in the case of rishus rabbin to rishus yachid. Alma. But what do you see from here? Saver lechi mishum mechitza v'korah mishum heker. As I just mentioned earlier, that we see a lechi is more because of a mechitza, and a korah is more because of a heker. So to Rabbi said, lechi mishum mechitza v'korah mishum heker. So to Rabbi said that lechi is basically a wall, is a heker. And the Rav Omar echad zev mishum heker. Now both a lechi and a korah, those are all basically the usage of them is for a heker. Now, Eisvei Rabbi Yaakov bar Abba l'Rav. So hazarik l'mavui yesh lo lechi chayiv ein lo lechi pater. If one throws in a mavui, so it sounds like that one goes ahead and he will be chayiv. But if there is no lechi, he'd be pater. So what do you see over here? You see that it's that a lechi is actually a wall. It's nothing to do with a reminder, because obviously if there's no lechi there, just because it's a reminder doesn't make it a rabbim. So Aki Kamar, Einot Sarich el lechi. This is what it means to say. You don't need a lechi, because as if there's area is something which requires for carrying needs a lechi, and even if there doesn't, if the no lechi was put up, still hazar l'sarich chayiv. One of throws in is chayiv and lechi v'davar acher. But if it's lechi and let's say it was something which needed, right? He didn't say it's Tzuras Pesach, and it was, and therefore, in other words, if it was a case of where it was someone was closed and you throw in there, then you're chayiv. But if it was something that needed more than just a lechi, such as something that needs a lechi and a Tzuras Pesach, then which is like a mavui, a mafulish, an open mavui, then hazar l'seichel pater. One of those in there is pater. So a person, we mentioned this case before, a person who has a house on two sides of a public way, and he wants to care for one another. He eats a lech on each side or a beam on each side, and he can walk in and he can go in between. So what do you see over here? So Rabu said earlier, if it's because of a hecker, it's because of a hecker. How can you? Because it's just recognizable. You're permitting this area to go ahead and walk, and you should require more than that. So Amrlo in Marvim Rishus Rabim Bekach. So the Chachamim say you can't use the Rishus Rabim Bekach, but Rabbi Yehuda holds right that would be okay. So Hasam because Rabbi Yehuda shtei mechitzas deraisa, because this is all b'shita Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, right, he holds that mechitza all you need is two mechitzas deraisa. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, indeed, if it was a case of which something needs, let's say it's Surah Pesach and a Mavui, according to him, you would be chayiv in such a case because even two walls over here makes it a rishus ha-yachid, or no longer rishus ha-rabim. Therefore, one takes from there rishus ha-rabim into an area or something with two walls would be chayiv. And Amar Rav Yehuda Marav Mavui she'arko v'rachva einaniter belechi mashu, right? A Mavui which is square, right? In other words, sha'arko, is that its length is just like its distance is not permitted. Right? Rather, it's not permitted with a lechi on its side. In other words, you need basically another wall, right? In Amar Rav Chia bar Rav Ashim Rav Mavui sha'arko karachlo einaniter b'karatavach. Same thing over there. A mavui that once again is square because its length is not usually it's deeper than it is wide, but if it's just as deep as this wide, then a korah that we're having a korah of a tavach will also not help it because this is more like a chatzir. It's not like a mavui. And Amar Zera kamim mechavim shma'is sabi. Right? This is very wise. And I was by mavui. We have special coolers by mavui. When it comes to a chatzir, you need more of a wall. But when it comes to a mavui, right? When it comes to a mavui, we have a special permit. You can use a lechi or you can use a korah. But when it comes to a chatzir, right, you can't just use a lechi or a korah. You need something more, and that's what he's saying here. And says Rab Zera, right? This is very correct. Kamashmait says sabi, right? It's very wise. Why? Because once a mavui is as wide as it is deep, it's like a chatzir. And therefore, we have to remember that since a chatzir is not permitted with only a lechi or a simple beam, elu pasabra. Rather, we said by a chatzir needs a wall. Right. So going back, if we can sort of almost summarize today,
the dinim of a chatzir.
So when it comes to a chatzir, then you need a fourth wall. When it comes to a mavui, that's what we say lechi or korah. So therefore, even though something was a mavui, i.e., it was shared by other chatzeros, nevertheless, we say over here that in this case, since it's square, it's more like a chatzir, and therefore, as the din of chatzir, that the fourth side has to be a pasarba. And on Rab Zera, he kashli ha kashli. So if I promise, this lahavi high lechi kapas mashu v'nishtari. Why don't we say this lechi is now basically a board, and therefore it should be permitted, right, without anything else. So he says, no, yes. So you know why this lechi is not considered to be a pas, which is just a board? Because remember, a pas requires to be arba tfachim, and this lechi is not arba tfachim. And one more final thing, some of Nachman, since we learned, what is the mavi that is permitted with a lechi and a korah? Anything that is longer than it is wide, right? Most alleyways are much longer than it is wide. You have houses with chatzeros, right? There are houses, the chatzer, that are open into this mavui. And what is a chatzer that is not permitted with a lechi or korah, but rather you need a board of 4 tfachim to make it a wall? Any type of mavui that is square. So only so it has to be square, not rounded. So means to say if it's longer than it is wide, then it's a mavui. And therefore it's a mavui, and a mavui can be sufficient with a lechi or a korah, however low. But if it's not deeper than it is wide, then then it's a chatzir. V'kama, and how much does it have to be longer? So Savar Shmuel, remember adika pishnai berachva. Some say it has to be twice as long as it is wide. However, Amar le Rav Hachi Amar Chavivi. So Rav says, as my Chavivi said, Afilu mashu, even if it's slightly longer than it's wide, then that constitutes something which is then it constitutes something which is not square, and then therefore we can have the kulas of being a mavui and not the chumas of being a chaser. All right, Yishkach, we'll stop here at the 2 dots. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Shabbos, good Chodesh.
Have a good Shabbos. See you guys. Good to see you Sunday.
Shabbos.